All right. So last day we continued with aphorism 82, which says that although bhakti is essentially one, it can manifest different different relationship with God. 11 were mentioned, which were not exhaustive list. This is how one can connect to. One may think God as friend, as one can think God as one's master, as even so much as to espouse. And then this kind of liking, this kind of relationship is what bhakti manifests as. That was Narada's point. Two more aphorisms. It's ending. Let us see aphorism 83. So this one I did not mark the syntax because these are mostly, this aphorism is mostly names of different teachers of bhakti. So unnecessarily this aphorism will having too many numbers. Iti evam badanti jana jalpa nirbhayaha ekamataha kumara vyasa shuka shandilya garga vishnu kaundinya shesha uddhava aruni bali hanumat vibhishana adayo bhakti acharya. Quite a lengthy aphorism. Iti evam, thus badanti, declare, acharya, the following teachers of bhakti, ekamataha, unanimously, and jana jalpo nirbhayaha, without being afraid of people's opinion. Who are these acharyas? These are the names. 13 acharyas of bhakti, teachers of bhakti. Fine, and adayo means and others. Thus declare the following teachers of bhakti unanimously, without being afraid of people's opinion. They are Kumara, Vyasa, Shuka, Shandilya, Garga, Vishnu, Kaundinya, Shesha, Uddhava, Aruni, Bali, Hanuman, Vibhishana, and others. So, Bhakti Acharya, it has been translated as teachers of Bhakti. But Acharya does not mean only teachers. Acharya also means one who exemplifies the teachings. Probably you remember in our production of Bhuti, we discussed this point, Acharya. So Acharya one is teachers, that is Achinoti iti Acharya. One who collects, Chinoti means collect. One who collects the best of the teachings and teach it. In that sense, they are Acharya. Chinoti. Chinoti means choosing or selecting. Another definition of Acharya is Acharati iti Acharya. One who exemplifies in their own life. So the name 13 names that Narada is mentioning in these aphorisms. Not all of them wrote or taught bhakti. Some of them wrote, for example, Vyasa, Shandilya, Garga. They wrote about bhakti. Others in the list exemplified in their life what has been taught in this text. That is, what has been the main points of Narada Bhakti Sutras that have been seen, noticed, observed in their life. They have shown in their life what para bhakti is like and how to cultivate bhakti. So Narada just want to say that he is not someone who is inventor of path of bhakti. He is just a compiler. None of the ideas he discussed here, except, I mean, ideas, he is not originator, but ideas were already there. It is not his own ideas. So he compiled, he systematically presented it before us. So what he has said in Narada Bhakti Sutras are in tune with all the teachers and exemplifiers of bhakti. They are ekamataha, that is unanimous. So all these teachers or exemplifiers of bhakti are unanimous about the effectiveness of the path of bhakti. All of them have shown that bhakti is a very beneficial path, is very effective path to reach the goal. They might have differed in their emphasis on bhakti. Some has emphasized, for example, um, some has emphasized, say, worship. Some has emphasized reading and talking God's name. But about the effectiveness of bhakti, they are unanimous. In that way, they are unanimously declared. And they have an adjective, jana jalpo nirbhayaha. They were without being afraid of people's opinion. That is, these teachers and exemplifiers were convinced about the effectiveness of their path of bhakti. Others might criticize their path, but they don't care. For example, those who are traditional non-dualists, they might criticize what is this indulgence in mere emotional form of spirituality, because the reality is non-dual only. So what is this emotional expression, emotional showiness and concept of personal God? So they might criticize, but these acharyas, they were convinced about their path, so they did not mind about people's opinion. We see the same in the life of Sri Krishna. We see that, Sri Krishna used to chant God's name with by clapping his hands. And his guru, Totapuri, who was a non-dualist monk who came, and he ridiculed Sri Krishna. He said, what are you doing this like this? Are you making chapati? You know, in India, still in villages especially, when they make chapati, roti, they clap the chapati. No, they beat the chapati with their two hands. So he ridiculed, Totapuri ridiculed Sri Ramakrishna. What is this singing God's name and clapping? Are you making chapatis? But eventually, Totapuri also understood the power of bhakti. He understood through Sri Ramakrishna that bhakti is such a great path. Seeing Sri Ramakrishna, his eyes opened. So Totapuri was at the very beginning was very much surprised to see such a wonderful would say adhikari, that is one who is competent for non-dualism. He saw that Sri Ramakrishna was ready for non-dual sadhana, and how he became ready through the path of bhakti. So, and also seeing Sri Ramakrishna's life and sincere devotion to Mother Kali, Totapuri also was later convinced about the path of bhakti. So these teachers of bhakti, Narada says that they were never afraid of people's opinion. So devotees are not shaken by such public opinions. Others may say about the path of bhakti yoga something which is not very good. They may criticize the path of bhakti yoga, but those who are attracted to this path, they need not listen to that kind of criticism. That is the lesson. Now, who are these acharyas? Very briefly, Kumara means Sanat Kumara, who was Narada's guru. He preached bhakti. Then Vyasa, the famous Vyasa who composed Bhagavatam, is a masterpiece on bhakti on Sri Krishna. Shuka, Shuka is a rishi in Hinduism and also son of Vyasa. He is the main narrator of Bhagavata Purana. Shandilya. Shandilya is writer of Bhakti Mimamsa, which is also known as Shandilya Bhakti Sutra. Narada even mentioned about Shandilya. So he wrote a Bhakti Sutra, just like we have Narada Bhakti Sutras. Shandilya wrote Shandilya Bhakti Sutras. Gorgo. Gorgo Narada mentioned earlier. So he is writer of Garga Samhita, another life of Sri Krishna, a bhakti text, Garga Samhita. Vishnu. Vishnu, there are many Vishnu, but it appears here in Mahabharata Shanti Parva. There is a section called Narayaniya section. There we get the mention of a person called Narayana, also known as Vishnu, who talks about bhakti, who teaches bhakti. Most likely, it is that Vishnu whom Narada is pointing to. Then Kaundinya is a sage whose name we find in Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, and nothing more is known about him. Then Shesha is another sage who also went by the name Shankarsana. He was a exponent of Bhagavata cult of Bhakti. Uddhava, we know, Sri Krishna's friend, whose conversation with Sri Krishna has come to be known as Uddhava Gita. Aruni, a sage Uddalaka Aruni, whose teachings are recorded in Chandogya and Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, but we don't know what is his connection with bhakti. And Bali is Mahabali Chakravarti. His mention is in Bhagavatam. Hanuman, we know, great devotee of Sri Rama, and Vibhishana is a friend and devotee of Sri Rama who worshipped Rama, or rather adored Sri Rama. He knew Rama as God, worshipped Rama as God, but as a friend. So these are the 13 teachers, and Narada says, Adi, there are many others. So it is clear from this aphorism that when Narada composed these Narada Bhakti Sutras, names of these teachers and exemplars of bhakti were already well known among the people. He took it for granted that the readers would know about them. He did so, but now we don't know some of these teachers who is being mentioned by Narada. So, what is the summary of this aphorism? All the teachers and exemplifiers of bhakti are unanimous about the effectiveness of bhakti yoga. and they did not care about others' opinion about this path. Now, the last aphorism, 84, which is Phalashruti. Phalashruti means the eulogy. Aphorism 84, Ya idam Narada proktam Shiva anushasanam Vishwasiti Shraddhate Sa Bhaktiman Bhavati Saha Preshtam Lavate Saha Preshtam Lavate. Ya means one who Vishwasiti, Vishwas from there, Vishwasiti, believes, Shraddhate, and practices, Idam, these, Shiva Anushasanam, auspicious teachings, Narada Proktam, narrated by Narada. Sa, such a one, Bhavati becomes Bhaktiman, endowed with bhakti. Saha, such a one, Lavate, attains, Preshtam, the beloved. It is repeated. Sa, such a one, Lavate, attains, Preshtam, the beloved. So one who believes and practices these auspicious teachings narrated by Narada, such a one becomes endowed with bhakti. Such a one attains the beloved. Such a one attains the beloved. So this aphorism is Phalashruti. it is the nature of the Indian texts and hymns that it will end with Phalashruti, eulogy, that is glorifying the text or the hymn. The favorable result that occurs to those who read, listen, or follow the text, that is Phalashruti. And as we have noticed, this aphorism ends with three words, Sa Preshtam Lavate, and which is repeated. Saha Preshtam Lavate, Saha Preshtam Lavate. So repetition means number one, to indicate end of the text or end of the section. So here definitely to mean that is the end of the text. And also to convey the sense of surety. There is no doubt about that. It is kind of affirmation. So validating what the text has said. So in both the senses, it has been repeated here. And it is called Shiva Anushasanam, auspicious teachings. Auspicious because these aphorisms were about the highest goal of human life. They were about God, about bhakti. So these were auspicious. And Narada Proktam, narrated by Narada, not written by Narada. It was not written, originated. It was just narrated by Narada. So ideas were already present. Narada just systematized them and narrated them. And then it says the important emphasis, Vishwasiti Shraddhate, believes and practices. The emphasis of the aphorism is on conviction, Vishwas, and faithful commitment, Shraddha. So Vishwasiti here means to have a working faith. So one should be open to the suggestions given in this text. Then only it will bear its fruit. And Shraddhate. So not only having working faith or belief, but one should commit oneself to practice. Then after some time, one can see the results. As we know, as I have told earlier, for some of us, bhakti, devotion is natural, but not for all. But others can also cultivate bhakti, as mentioned by Narada. That is the point, that those who don't have natural inclination for bhakti, they also can, by, say, reading bhakti literature, singing devotional songs and hymns and chants, through formal worship, and finally, with association with other devotees, those who already have bhakti. And if someone with faith and commitment, they cultivate this, then it is called Gauni Bhakti, Apara Bhakti, the Sadhana Bhakti. This is uh, for the practice of bhakti, then faith and commitment are necessary. What happens then if somebody has a faith and committed to Apara Bhakti practices? Bhaktiman Bhavati, becomes endowed with bhakti. So one gradually starts feeling intimacy with God. A personal relationship starts to grow, and in due course of time, one gets para bhakti, spontaneous love for God. But with the practices, one gradually starts feeling that the seed of bhakti is slowly germinating in their heart. And saha preshtham lavate, such a one attains the beloved. So ultimately, such a person becomes one with God. We earlier we explained the word tanmayata. One no longer feels that God is a distant being who is somewhere there, but tanmayata means feeling God's presence here. One feels the presence of God amidst everything. That is certain that one such a person will definitely attain the beloved. So it is repeated. So summary of this aphorism, the last aphorism, 84th aphorism is, if one has faith in the teachings of Narada Bhakti Sutras and sincerely follows them, they will eventually grow in devotion. In due course of time, they will attain the goal of bhakti, spontaneous love for God. And there is no doubt about it. With this ends Narada Bhakti Sutra. Any question about today's aphorisms?
I have a question about the previous aphorism 83.
Please.
It seems a little unusual that Narada refers to himself as one of the teachers. I mean, is that typical in texts like this?
Narada did not mention his name. Here, Kumara means Sanata Kumara. So in some book, someone has mentioned Kumara means Narada himself, but Kumara, actually Narada is referring to his guru, Sanat Kumara.
I see.
I also had this doubt. Then I referred to other books about Narada Bhakti Sutra. So I found most of them by Kumara is referring to Sanat Kumara.
I see. That makes sense. Thank you.
Yes. All right. So, can we hear from you about your, did Hanuman have family? I have to go and check. I have to go and I don't know whether anyone can answer these questions. Had Hanuman had family? Oh, no, no, I believe no, no, no. Hanuman is always referred to as a brahmachari. That is, he remains celibate. Celibate. Okay. Interestingly, I came across about this Hanuman. It is said that Hanuman means monkeys, but the word for monkeys is banara. Okay, banara. So one version is there was a group of people who used to live in forest, bana. Okay, bana, Sanskrit of forest is bana. Okay, they used to live in bana, and they had their insignia, in their flag. In their flag had the insignia of monkey. Uh, and so Hanuman may not be a monkey after all. He might have been a human being, interestingly. All right.
Maharaj,
Yes,
question.
go ahead, Subhash.
Uh, just like for other yogas, you had the prerequisites like sadhana chatushtaya and yama niyama. So for bhakti, is there anything like that one? I was thinking about that earlier.
No, no. For bhakti, there is no prerequisite. Bhakti is, as we discussed in the first aphorism, those, yeah, those who have little bit of yearning for God, and those who want to go beyond suffering, and they have tried other paths. Okay, it is true for every path. Okay, let us be frank. For Jnana Yoga, Bhakti Yoga, Raja Yoga, it is said that, in fact, this has been stated in Samkhya Karika. Okay, Samkhya Karika is a text on which Samkhya philosophy is based. The first aphorism says, had there been not suffering in this world, and had people not found any other means of solving their problems, nobody would have come to spirituality. Okay, so for Bhakti Yoga also, so those who have, the suffering may not be pain, suffering may be, a sense of unfulfillment, which is a true thing, existential suffering, existential problem. So those who are satisfied with everything or want to go beyond all this, and have some faith in God, some yearning about God, for them is Bhakti Yoga.
Maharaj, what is one-pointedness bhakti? How do you put it as?
Yes, one-pointed Bhakti means one has love to God is the most important thing in life. That is the priority in life. Okay, all the other priorities are secondaries. That is called one-pointed Bhakti. For example, if there is a conflict, say uh, someone does a worship daily in the morning, okay, or meditate on God. But if there is a conflict of interest, so those who have one-pointed bhakti, for them, this worship or meditation will be the priority. That is called one-pointed bhakti. Okay.
Maharaj, one question.
Yeah.
That is in Buddha, like in as it is told that it is for everyone, everybody, each and everyone can practice it and have it. What about this other like non-Hindu people like Buddhists, how do they inculcate this yoga in them? Or do they believe in it, or do they believe in non-dualism? What?
Good. So Christianity is totally bhakti based. There's no doubt about it. Okay. And Buddhism, most of the Buddhists are bhakti. Most of the Buddhist followers of Buddhism are devotees of Buddha. They do much more elaborate worship than the Hindus do. Okay. So when we think about Buddhism, we only think probably it is mindfulness and Four Noble Truths, but only a handful of people are there who are into non-dual Buddhism. Most of the followers of Buddhists are actually devotees of Buddha. Devotees of Buddha. That's why we see so many temples and stupas dedicated to Buddha. And they have elaborate mantras and worship ritual, far more ritualistic than even the Orthodox Hindus. Okay. Especially Tibetan Buddhists. Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Yeah. And Sri Ramakrishna said one thing. He said to Brahmas did not believe in, a personal God with form. Then Sri Ramakrishna said, you don't have to. But from bhakti, you can take from the bhakti yoga, how their yearning, okay, their sincerity, that is to be something inculcated, practiced, that we can learn from the bhaktas, great bhaktas, how one can be so dedicated, one pointed, and yearning. They have a genuine yearning for God. Okay, that thing, that that pull, that turn, pull, that can be that is something can be learned from bhakti yoga.
Maharaj, another question. For this Nirakarvadi, non-dualist form of this thing, yearning of God, but where these attachments, 11 attachments, 11 ways we have seen here, how do they go follow that? They don't follow that.
No.
They go to the one with God.
Tanmayata.
Do they go?
Yes. Tanmayata is the only thing that they can. They cannot have this kind of personal relationship. And that's why, according to the Krishna Bhaktas, Vaishnavas, that non-dualism is such a no-no thing for them. That they say that there are so many ways we can connect to God. Okay, and so sweet relationship we can have, and non-dualism, that's why for them is a secondary thing. Okay, it's a secondary thing.
Even Thakur also didn't want that. Told Ma, don't make me sannyasi.
Yeah, don't make me a dry mouth. Yeah.
Dry mouth.
Subharchala Devi cites, oh, I did not know that. Okay, are the Sahasranamas and Stotras glories of God's goddess? These are the names related to bhaktas like Bhakta Priya. Yeah, indeed. I have not much idea about the Sahasranamas. All right, now it's your time. Yes, it is your turn to share your thoughts. How does Buddhism looks at Bhakti Yoga with no existence of God? Or to them, Buddha is God. To them, Buddha is God. They are devoted to Buddha. Okay. Okay, so any of the questions I posed, ideas, you may like to share your ideas, thoughts, reflection. Who is coming first? Yes,
I can
Victoria.
share, Swami.
Yes,
Okay.
Victoria, please go ahead.
Okay, good. First of all, I would like to thank you for all of your effort in the class. It's really been a great class. And the fact that you
Thank you.
added the chanting and the meditation has really made it really well-rounded for me. Like I haven't gotten a lot of chanting over the last 10 years, and it's been really nice. So thank you for that.
Thank you. Yeah.
So what I can say is when I came to, well, first of all, I wrote Swami a question earlier in the week, and then he answered me. And so I'd like to bring the question up in class, just in case there's somebody else that might benefit from it.
Yes.
So I don't know whether you want to answer the question or whether you want me to read the answer.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay,
Read.
fine.
Go ask your question and I'll answer, right?
Okay, so for a little context, when I came to Vedanta, I came from the Christian background, and the focus was definitely on loving God. I mean, that was all there was. I had no knowledge of the yogas. I didn't really know. I knew the word realization or enlightenment, but I really didn't know very much else. But over the time, since I've been at Vedanta, that aspect, while it has remained a part of my life, I mean, a big part of my life, the whole jnana and realization thing has become much, much bigger. And so I automatically assumed that all of the 4 yogas were all seeking realization. So, so then I'll go into my question now. First of all, it seems that Narada is very sure in the knowledge that bhakti is the most accessible, enjoyable, and easiest form through which a person can enter the realized state. See, that's how I've been thinking all along. So my question was, how can a true bhakta even enter the realized state if they are not willing to go beyond form? So in other words, to go into the heart of their Ishadhyanananda, to discover the formless aspect, which would mean when the mind had now gone silent. And so what that does is, with the grace of the divine being, it can awaken them to the state of realization, to Brahman or consciousness. And so this is what Swami wrote back to me. According to the path of bhakti, a devotee doesn't have to aim for the formless aspect of reality. Pure ecstatic love for God is the highest goal. Communion is the sweetest thing for the devotee. The Krishna bhaktas don't aspire for the realization of the formless Brahman. That the formless realization is the highest is the claim of jnana yoga, not bhakti yoga. In the Bhagavad Gita, however, Sri Krishna says that God, out of compassion for the devotee, kindles the lamp of wisdom in the heart of the devotee, through which the devotee can also realize the nameless, formless aspect of the divine. So, so this is such a perfect answer for me, because all this time I've been wanting to know that tipping point where the devotee is doing their practice, going closer and closer, and then God somehow comes forward, and then the union occurs. Like, where does that happen at? And that answer really crystallized it for me, that we do all of the work that we can possibly do, and then when we get to this point where you know, we just start throwing away things in our life, saying, this is not important anymore. That is not important anymore. I'm letting big chunks of my life go, and finally making the love of God the most important thing for my life. And that surrender occurs, that really sweet moment of surrender. It's such a powerful moment. That's when God can come in and just say, here you go. Yeah. You know, here's realization.
Yes.
So
yes.
That was really wonderful. I'm so pleased to hear that. So thank you for that. And then I have one question, and that is there a similar principle at work in karma yoga as well? You know what I mean?
Yes, exactly. So traditionally speaking, karma yoga has been part of every yoga. Okay, so karma yoga is the one we are doing karma all the time, but how to do karma in a way that helps us spiritually. Okay, so as we see in Bhagavad Gita, karma yoga has been given in 4 or 5 flavors, but one of them was, all of them except one was doing work for God. Okay,
Okay.
say I'm doing everything, but as an offering to God. Okay, another aspect was there is a cycle of mutual dependence going on. Okay, I am contributing to this cycle, which is kind of like a sacrifice going on, a fire sacrifice, as it were going on, where everybody is offering things. Otherwise, this fire sacrifice won't go. The uh, fire won't stay anymore if people don't keep on giving the fuel. So I am also contributing it because this is the nature of the world. This is another way of looking at karma yoga. And another way of karma yoga that Sri Krishna says is that being detached from everything, as if I am not doing anything. It is the Brahman. It is the non-dual being which is doing everything. I am just an instrument. Okay, so although it is being done by me, but I am not attached to it. Okay, so so traditional idea of karma yoga was not an independent path. Okay, karma yoga was always a auxiliary to all the yogas. But it was Swami Vivekananda who gave Karma Yoga an independent status. If we read his Karma Yoga lectures, we will see that he says, if through Karma Yoga alone, without any belief in God, without any rational inquiry, without any bhakti, without any meditation, but if one can does Karma Yoga in the spirit of unselfishness, gradually what will become, that person will transcend their limited idea about themselves, that I am this body and mind. This is what the problem is. I am thinking myself only this, so I am always worried about how to maintain my interest, my body's interest, my mind's interest. But as we keep on doing karma yoga in a spirit of service, okay, in the spirit of serving others unselfishly, what will happen gradually, the sense of me will also enlarge. So no more, a time will come when I will feel one with the entire existence. So another way of telling that is, I have become one with everybody. I have become one with everybody. So karma yoga also will lead to the same goal of realizing oneself as infinite, the vast. Okay. Not through the path of Shravana Manana Nidhyasana, not through inquiry, not through any other method. So independently it can take us to, but it is theoretically so, it can really do that, but practically we need the help of every other yoga in all the yogas. Okay, all the, for example, I am say doing karma yoga very faithfully, but if I am not alert enough, then I won't know where my interest is interfering or appearing as larger interest. Maybe it is my interest, okay, but it is lurching as an interest for global emancipation, but actually probably it is something I. So for that, we need meditation, because if we meditate, then these ideas which are lurching, they come in front of us. Then we can see that karma yoga is not going well. I have to do it well. Okay. So each yoga will help other yoga. Any other sharing?
Maharaj, I
Yes,
want to.
yes.
Oh, okay. No, please,
But
please go ahead.
yeah,
No,
Pratiksha,
you
go
go
ahead.
ahead.
No, no, I
Pratiksha,
do
please
it.
go ahead. Yes.
Yeah, please
Okay.
go ahead.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Swamiji, for this wonderful, insightful class on Narada Bhakti Sutras. In my experience, whenever I read a Bhakti test, I found the benchmark very high, and then the practices something that I would not be able to do. And the way you described it made things very practical and then very doable. One example for it would be like how Narad Bhakti Sutra talks about continuously remembering God and then dedicating all actions to God. And though for someone like me who is like monkey of Dakshineshwar, those things seem like remotely possible. It's almost impossible for me, but your class really provided me a practical and doable way to do that. For example, like instead of continuous something being continuous, being regular. Otherwise, at other times I would like beat myself up for not doing enough, and that would always be constantly going on. And then I think now I'm more like I just have to be regular in my practice, and I do not have to do something so much in one extent and then beat myself up other times and not do anything, and then I would go nowhere. So I think that really helped me. And another thing is dedicating all actions to God is very difficult. So easier form and the more doable form for me that you said would be like remembering God before doing any actions. And I found it more practical and doable. And moreover, whenever I did that, I found that I would do the tasks more easy, more better, and then I would focus more on it, and the outcome would be much more better. So I found the overall class very doable and very practical, and something that could be implemented in all of our lives. And thank you so much, Swamiji.
Thank you for sharing your reflections. Thank you. Yes. Who was next?
Maharaj, I just want to, first of all, thanks and pranam. You took us to this journey, and it was, in one word, it was so enriching. And first thing, it stuck to me that how to develop this bhakti, this love for God, and understand that, because we understand all worldly love and worldly relationships, emotions, and all. The channelizing it, if we don't know the technical part of it, which we learn from Narada Bhakti Sutra from you, and we cannot get the way how to establish this lovely relationship with God. It is more imagination. Then sometimes I'm imagining the reality is different. So this we learn from this Narada Bhakti Sutra, and that way, as we all know that anyway, anything we do that can enhance this love for God. May not be one thing is not enhancing, other thing is enhancing. So this channelizing the emotion, worldly things in that way, and so that is enriching. That has really gives a very good insight to the relationship with developing the relationship with God. That has really helped, and which we learn from you. And especially, I always feel that this technical part of it, what does it mean? One word, what is the actual meaning? Then it gives more, it becomes more impactful for life. So both way, these are very helpful in life, and this will remain, and this will be continued like that. Thank you so much, Maharaj. And the ideas from the participants, those are really nice. The thoughts of the participants. Whatever provided, it raised some questions which cleared others' mind also.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes. Who was there? Gunamai? Yes. Would you please? Unmute. You have to unmute yourself. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Now, can you hear now?
Yes, fine.
So this whole process of reflecting actually was very uplifting for me. Just thinking over the course of the class. And I also want to thank you so much for continuing this on Zoom, especially now that my circumstances are different. And also the devotees. That was what stuck with me was the importance of holy company. And it's been actually a painful lesson to learn from moving away and realizing, oh, yes, that was quite foolish. So we live and learn, I guess, until we do something we don't. It made me realize how important holy company is. So I appreciate having this connection even on Zoom. Sometimes the class feels like, when you water a plant that is very dry and it comes back to life. It's just being in this time with others in Zoom, even though it's Zoom, it's still, I feel that connection. So that's very, and then I wrote down the most helpful part, I think too, because of this time in my life, were all the devotees' suggestions and your suggestions about dealing with anxiety and worry, because that's come up more prominently in my life these days. And also what Pratiksha talked about, that throughout the day, establishing moments that you can reconnect and how helpful that is for spiritual life. And then just all the ideas, the music, chanting, reading, all those tools that it's helpful to be reminded of. And then I did have one question, and that was kind of gets to something that Victoria was talking about, this interface between bhakti and jnana. When I first came to Vedanta, people would say, oh, are you a bhakta or a jnani? And over time, I really felt there was a connection between the two. In fact, in the Parokshana Bhuti class, I would often feel a sweetness coming from the discussion of that, what reality is, what we really are, that there was a deep love there. And then also within the feelings of devotion, that there was an expansiveness going beyond the smallness. And so those are my thoughts. Thank you very much, Swami. Thank you to all.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing. Yeah, wonderful. Anyone else?
Thank you, Swami, for teaching the class.
Okay, Vijayaji, thank you. Thank you for attending the class. Yes.
I really learned a lot.
Yeah, in fact, I learned a lot. I know every day I was thinking during the class that how true Sri Ramakrishna was. He said that to kill yourself, you need only a razor. You need only a razor to kill yourself. But to kill others, you need a sword. Okay, so when I read these Narada Bhakti Sutras, I did not have to delve so much into this with the aphorisms, because all I thought was everything was so acceptable to me and helpful for my spiritual life. Now, in the course of giving the class, I am always thinking of all the participants, how others will look at this aphorism, how others will look at an aphorism, and how it can be broken down so that others can relate to it. At the same time, not to dilute the message. Okay, how to distill the message at the same time, how others can relate to it. So it has been also a great journey for me. Thank you.
Maharaj, thank you so much. But only one thing is the simplest way you have put this text to all of us. It is really remarkable.
Thank you. Yeah.
We can listen to other people's talks, but yours is the very simplest and profound way of delivering the messages to us. Thank you, Maharaj.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes,
Hi,
Maritaji. Yes.
Pranam Maharaj.
Yes.
First of all, at the outset, I truly want to thank you for sharing with us and teaching us the sutras within the traditions of larger Hinduism and spiritual thought. Yes, there's still a lot to learn and understand. It's like an ocean. So this was, at least for many of us, that we come from a diverse range of backgrounds, and with advancement in our initiation and other, with an exposure to this entire Vedantic thought. So certainly this has been a big learning experience. You rightly mentioned the importance of meditation, and yes, some of us spend that time. We mentioned, say our mantras. This is very important. We do get distracted, but as you rightly said, we have to continue making efforts and try to have this one-pointed devotion, as you just mentioned today as well. And so I just want to especially, I was fortunate to have met you last month in person. I've met you before, but this also gave me some insight when I actually spoke to you. So thank you very much for the opportunity, Maharaj, and we will continue to be involved, and we look forward to this session. Thank you once again.
Yeah.
I think I'm voicing the feelings of all the participants and devotees as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes, someone was sharing their reflection. Please go ahead.
Oh.
Piti, okay, please.
Pranam Maharaj, I guess I wrote a few things down. I started pretty late in this class, I think somewhere around aphorism 50-ish. And but from the very beginning, I can say I listened to some of your lectures very early on when you first came. And I found the same thing that I found in those lectures that I find in this class, which is that it seems like the class is very simple and things are expressed in a very straightforward, simple way, but they pack a lot in, and that I think this is my first time also with the sutra literature. So it's, I guess each word packs a lot in general. But, I also found that you always use words with a lot of care and emphasis. So, and the pace of the class is such that during the class also we can think about what you're saying and then actually even ask questions within the class. So that's something that was very, very helpful to me. And, now some of the ideas that I learned are kind of, some of them are familiar because of the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna. There are many ideas mentioned in there, and even some of our orders literature, many classes, I've heard many things. But I think in the Bhakti Sutras that I found was everything was very structured. From the point I joined, there were like do's and don'ts, and they were emphasized also in certain ways. Attention was brought to certain things in particular, and mostly they were very practical. That's what I thought. At least for me, I felt they were very practical. I also one thing about the class before I go on to some things that stood out to me, this whole format of the class where you actually ask us questions. So we cannot let our mind wander even for a second because we might be quizzed. And so that's pretty encouraging, that we have to, we cannot just ignore what we learned in the last few classes. We should be, thinking about that when we attend the next class. So for some of the few things that stood out to me, one was that the smarana asakti that we talked about last time. And so I used to do this. Pre-pandemic, I started this where I set hourly alarms on my phone with a church bell. And so every hour it would go off, and that was my signal that this is a moment, take a break from whatever you're doing for a moment, just, remember your mantra, Ishadhyanananda, whatever, just bring the focus to the divine. And but then I found that people around me were just very disturbed because every hour the alarm is going off. So I discontinued that practice. So the last week's class was actually very helpful, that I need to resume that, because somehow that got lost for the last 2 years. Then a few things you said really, one was that devotion is a full-time job, especially for beginners. So somehow that was something not in my mind, because we think that that's something we will be doing closer to the end of the practice, when we're closer to the realization. But because we are encouraged to start out slow, in general. So this is something I think that stuck with me. And then one practical tip that you gave, that when we go to a temple or a holy place, we should meditate there, or so that we can give something. And that was very new to me, because I always thought that there's nothing we can give. We can only receive. We're not in a position to give anything. So that was, I think, a very beautiful idea. And the last thing I want to talk, because I don't want to take too much time, you mentioned that puja is, I think, something brings the dual and non-dual together. So that is something also, because it's usually considered a dualistic practice. Yeah. And I also would like if you have a moment to elaborate on that, because I do some puja here, and it would be, I think, very helpful to me and anybody maybe who does puja to reflect on that a little bit. Yeah.
Okay, that I did in one of the classes.
Oh, okay.
Before you joined, when the idea came about puja. Okay, so what I can do is I can send you that video link,
please,
of that class, where I discussed in brief how puja is a meeting point of dualism and non-dualism. Not only that, I wrote an article also, a brief article, the significance of verse. Yeah. So I will send both to you.
That will be nice. Yeah. And lastly, just a thanks to all the devotees, because it's I have also learned many questions I was having, but maybe wasn't brave enough to ask. Many people have asked. So and everybody is, whoever has shared, they're really inspirational, I would say, at the very least. Yeah.
Indeed.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Thank you. Yes, who else was there to share? Devanjali, yes, Devanjali, go ahead. Devanjali?
Yes,
Yeah.
Namaste.
Yes.
First of all, thank you so much for teaching us Narada Bhakti Sutra in the simplest manner possible, and also delivering the practical message behind it and every aphorism, so that I can add that to my daily life, to my daily spiritual practices. So regarding, I have some thoughts and doubts regarding one aphorism. It was aphorism 35, I guess. It mentioned that devotion is attained by letting go of sense objects and attachment to them. So ideally, when I heard it, I was thinking like the ideal situation would be I should let go of attachment to sense objects, but I'm yet to reach that stage. I'm yet to reach that level. So one idea that helped me, the way you taught us, that is knowing and realizing the enjoyment we derive from sense objects is temporary. And also you mentioned about consumerism on that note. So I have some doubt regarding that. I was contemplating on that idea, and I was thinking if is an ad or an Amazon update or maybe an email newsletter, is it really that powerful? That commercial, is it really that powerful that I need to? I cannot resist the idea of buying things, or maybe someone has bought something and I jump on it and I buy the stuff, or is it because of I already have those desires and the ad just reminded me of that. So I was thinking, how would I get rid of my desires? So one, I couldn't come to a concrete conclusion. You would be able to help me on that. However, I feel on a personal note, if I take the responsibility that it is because of my desires In that case, I'll be able to hopefully overcome the hankering after sense objects someday with Thakur's grace, maybe. And if I continue blaming the external forces, I lose the power to overcome my desires. And also, letting go won't come in a flash. So it's an ongoing journey through whatever little efforts we are taking in our daily lives and through our spiritual practices. So yes, I would like to know your input on it. So that was a thought. It's a doubt plus a thought. So I would like to know your input on it.
These are both. Desires are there. Desires are
Mhm.
there, and this kind of advertisements and the consumerism that is fuel to that desires. Okay, so we need not be brave enough to say that let me go through all the ad and all the consumeristic things and still be not attached to them, not be attracted by them. Okay, so the thing is, it is both. Since it is inside, so it is outside. Okay, so it is better to avoid consumerism. Okay, so it is both inside and outside.
Thank you. I also have another small realization. During this study of the text, I realized that I have heard the saying "God for life" and "life for God." So I realized that I'm still pretty far, and I'm still in the stage of God for life. So, and of course, I would want to cross over to the stage where I reach someday for my life transform for life for God. So I.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Oh yes, Manish Babu, please go ahead.
Yes, Pranam Swamiji, and namaskar to everybody, all the devotees in this room. So it's first, thank you for this, journey, taking us on this journey for the last, I guess, 16 months or so. I think I joined maybe after the class had already started in February. So I'm listening to the devotees. A lot of the things that are being shared, I think I agree with them. I think just to kind of back up a little bit, I would share the context. I no stranger to Vedanta. In fact, going back even my graduate student days, maybe going back 30 years ago, it really appealed to me at a cerebral level, because I'm a mathematician by training. In fact, I'm studying infinity, set theory, if you like, logic, set theory. All these things talk about, infinite existence, consciousness, bliss, etc. So it appealed to me in a very sort of the elegance of the whole structure. So I was kind of at that cerebral, intellectual level for all these years. And I never really started on the true journey until I think, I realized that actually devotion is a much easier path. In fact, maybe I used to think about devotion as, look down upon devotion as for people who are not educated. This is the path they take. But for people who are educated and learned, whatever that means, devotion is not for them, because that's sort of the, that was kind of my bias, or if you like, arrogance, conceit, ego, or whatever you call it. But really, I think, this journey through, the Narada Bhakti Sutras, actually getting to know you, I truly appreciated the importance of holy company. I think, of course, there are certain aphorisms that talk about that. And I've made so much more progress, I think, during this time than I would say in the last 30 years. I think I can honestly say that.
Congratulations. We should clap on that. Yes.
And it seems so like you have made the aphorism so practical and relevant, connecting it to the modern times. I remember one, you talk about avoiding unholy company. You can literally interpret that, but I think you explained it that it means also not consuming what you get through social media or through other channels. Unholy company doesn't just mean physical company of, unholy people.
Right.
I think, that's just an example of how you explained how these aphorisms apply to us, in modern times, current times, in a very concrete, practical manner. So thank you for that. And I think made things much easier for me to connect. Even though these are ancient scriptures, you realize the universality of these messages. Yeah, I mean, there's much more to say, but again, just want to convey my thanks.
Yeah.
I think this is an example of holy company. I think we're living.
Yes.
Living
Exactly.
those
Exactly.
lessons
Yes.
of aphorisms.
Yes. This class was a holy company for all of us. Yeah.
It's
Thank you.
been highly effective for me.
Yeah. So those who don't know, Manish Babu joins from New York. So he just found us over website and emailed us, can we join? And he joined. And also, let me share that during this pandemic and after he started attending the class, he got seriously interested in spiritual pursuit. Okay. And he got initiated from our Providence. He went to Providence, drove up to Providence and got initiated Mantra Diksha from Swami Yogatmanandaji. And now he attends any such holy company in New Jersey area or New York area. So yeah.
And thanks to you for, making all of that happen.
It just happened like that. Yeah. Yes.
In fact, I, on Fridays, I have another class, Srimad Bhagavatam, based on the Srimad Bhagavatam, taught by Swami Yogatmananda, which has been continuing for several years. So, there's a lot to digest, I think, but also it's another, famous text.
Right.
In fact, the 183 you mentioned refers to Vyasa, right? As one of the teachers. And perhaps the reference is to that.
Yes, Bhagavatam, yes,
right?
Yes.
So to kind of understand, the big picture and how this is all part of, part of the same sort of world is very helpful, very helpful. So thank you again.
Thank you, yes. Anyone else?
Maharaj, are we going to continue this next class also, or?
Let's see how many people, because we still have 10 minutes.
Okay. No, I thought we were going to do meditation. Huh?
No, today we are not.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll just briefly say my ideas, Maharaj. Thank you so much for giving the class. It was wonderful, and you made it. We had studied Narada Bhakti Sutras in Houston, but Swami used to give weekend retreats, so not in great detail. This is the first time we went several months, each aphorism in detail, and that was very helpful. I think I really feel inspired to go and revisit it and really go through it. Also, have Swami Prabhavanandaji's commentary on this, which is also very, very nice to read. As far as practice, the Smarana, thing that he mentions, that's really, really
very important.
Yeah, not just doing japa, but I try to do Gita, try to chant some chapters every day that way also. But my question or my challenge is, I would really like to combine all the 4 yogas in my spiritual practice. And some people already brought this up earlier. You already mentioned about Karma Yoga and also mentioned meditation in this, but especially Jnana Yoga and Bhakti Yoga, they seem to be totally opposite. And we are doing Swami Ishadhyanananda's class on Thursdays, and he's teaching Parokshanubhuti again. So it's interesting to touch it again. And then we do Friday Narada Bhakti Sutras. So ideas are, I think a lot of it is common. And how do we integrate all the 4 yogas? That's really because Swami Vivekananda, that was his ideal that you should harmonize all 4. And I can see how you can do for bhakti and karma. But the jnana and bhakti part is a little doubtful about. So if you can clarify, because I think somebody else asked before about the interface between jnana and bhakti. Yeah.
Okay, as I told it several times, even on introduction, I said. So basically, those who have, already have some kind of bhakti, to them, jnana gives a framework, intellectual framework that who is the God I am seeking. Okay, because all of us has intellect, and this question will come again and again. Am I the God I am seeking is sitting somewhere there? So at those moments, Jnana Yoga helps us to understand it is my own consciousness. God is in me. And now, since I am not able to connect with that infinite reality, formless reality, I am taking the help of a form. Okay, I am taking up the help of a form. So one thing we should remember that Aphorisms or Narada Bhakti Sutra, whatever we are reading, will do a great benefit if we read this through the life of Sri Ramakrishna. Okay, because this combination of all yogas, this idea has come from observing the life of Sri Ramakrishna. He was the exemplifier. Before that, this idea was not prominent. Even now, if we see, even now people can explicitly or implicitly may think or say that this yoga is better than that yoga. If we say that, it means we are not really understanding Sri Ramakrishna's coming. Okay, so that's why Swami Vivekananda, when he was founding Ramakrishna Mission, the objective he was writing down, he was dictating what should be the objective. He said to preach the integration of 4 yogas as reflected in the life of Sri Ramakrishna. So whenever we think of integrating the 4 yogas, we have to see through the lens of Sri Ramakrishna's life. So if we read gospel or see his life, we will see that in one paragraph, he will be talking about bhakti. Next paragraph, effortlessly, he is talking about jnana. Okay, so we should try to see those things, that how he is doing that, Okay, and that's why as I told earlier too, the ideal sadhana that are practiced in our order is to realize the non-duality through the help of duality. If you look at all the sadhana that has been practiced, reaching the non-dual aspect through the help of dual aspect, that is the express purpose of our sadhanas. Okay, so we need not worry too much about, we should be able to effortlessly listen to Aphorisms and same effortlessly able to do Narada Bhakti Sutras and take the best or whatever is resonating from each text in our life. Okay, so we don't have to take the entire Aphorisms, we don't have to take entire Narada Bhakti Sutra, but whatever we are finding best in each text, in Jnana text, Bhakti Yoga text, and let us take that. Okay, that is the thing.
Thank you, Maharaj. Thank you.
Yeah. So two devotees shared with me their reflection in writing, wonderful one. So I don't have time. So next day I will go through them. Okay. So they wanted to share in writing, brief but wonderful. Next time we shall share. Okay. So and thank you very much for sharing. We came to know so much about your take, your unique take on Narada Bhakti Sutras. Okay. So next day we shall start with that. And if someone who could not join today and would like to share their views, welcome next day. Then I shall take a broad view on Narada Bhakti Sutra. Other times I kind of summarized. This time I will take highlights of Narada Bhakti Sutra. Okay. So that the goal would be, if someone asks you what is bhakti, you should be able to confidently answer what is bhakti and practice the practices for it. So that has always been my goal, that those who spend so much of hours in, say, Aparakshana when we study Narada Bhakti Sutra, so they should be also able to tell others confidently what they told. Okay. So in that respect, we shall revisit Narada Bhakti Sutra next day. Okay. Thank you very much. So see you next week.